Hi, I'm here today with Jacob from Reform Saddles, and we're going to test their latest product, which has a potential to revolutionise the way we do bike fitting. It's quite a different product in that it is heat moldable, which means that we can customise the saddle to the rider's anatomy. So Jacob, do you want to tell us a bit about the two models of saddle that Reform offers and how it might be used in riding and racing?
Yes, so we have two models available at the moment. There's the Seymour, which is a full carbon layup. This is kind of more targeted towards road racing and gravel and time trial, all those kinds of things. We worked on a second model with the Rocky Enduro racing team to make something a little bit more durable for, when you're dropping your bike and those inevitable crashes on the mountain. Still has the same technology, and that technology is heating this carbon plate underneath to mold with that rider. Little bit of a weight difference.
It's about 40 grams, I believe.
Yeah.
So around 235 and around 200, and we've got a titanium rail, standard 7mm, or we've got a carbon rail that's a bit bigger, 10mm, which may or may not fit all seat clamps. And there you'll see that they're a short design, so they're a modern looking design, which suits some people. At the moment, they're available in one width, which is about 142, which suits many riders. But I believe there might be the potential for a wider saddle in the production line at the moment. So these are quite new. So the other thing we might do is show you what you also get in the box. In order to heat mould, we'll actually need some instructions, which is quite easy. We'll show you how to do that in a minute, but we've also got the specialist adapter that plugs into the saddle. It creates some heat, and as you'll see in a minute, we'll introduce you to Colin, who is a road cyclist who loves racing road and time trial, and he's having some saddle issues. So we'll talk about that, and then we'll show you how to mould it to him, and we'll see, does that actually alleviate some saddle pressures that he's experiencing. All right, this is Colin, who's agreed to be our guinea pig for today, and he's going to test the new saddle. Cole has a lovely Cervelo S5 bike, which he loves, and this is a real challenge actually for a good saddle fit. We've got an ergonomic saddle on at the moment, and we'll have a look at that in a minute, but he's had the bars too low, and one of the difficulties with this bike is that we have limited ability to raise the handlebars, and it's raised as much as it can. Colin, you were getting saddle sores on which side?
Left side, right in the groin.
Okay, so we've got a left-sided saddle sore, so it's asymmetric. A little bit of your history, we discovered you had a difference in leg strength and we were weaker on our left leg.
I do have a difference in leg strength, and I think that is the residual effect of an accident I had some years ago.
With a broken leg, basically.
The leg wasn't broken, but my femur went through my pelvis and ended up in my stomach, and there were other things that got broken along the way. And
now the net effect of that can be that we can get some asymmetrical movement of the pelvis because of the asymmetrical strength. Now that's a challenge for any saddle to cope with, and if we've coupled it with the bars being too low. Now, Cole, what triggers the saddle sore? Is it something specific? Is it a duration or a specific cycling thing you do?
Look, it's duration, pure and simple. And I find it really starts to niggle after about 2.5 hours, and I have concern about this going into a road race that's going to take 3 or 3.5 hours. I tend to think that at the 2.5 hour mark, I'm going to be
rather sore.
trying to find out how I can keep going.
Yes, it's hard to ride out of the saddle for a whole hour. So basically, we're getting saddle soreness from 2.5 hours on. Cole, if 10 out of 10 was the worst saddle soreness you had, how was it prior to raising your handlebar?
Prior to raising the handlebars, I would say at about the 2 to 2.5 hour mark, on that scale, it would have been around about an 8.
Okay, and once you raised it?
Raising probably dropped back to 5 or 4.
So it made a significant improvement, but was still not out of trouble. So we'll have a look at Cole on his current setup, and then we'll fit the new saddle and we'll show you how to heat mold it, and we'll see what effect that has on comfort. Now here's a close-up of Cole's current saddle, which is an SQ Lab. It's got a 1 centimetre drop to help unload the pelvis, but it normally works pretty well for this sort of thing. But today it hasn't worked as well as we'd like, so we'll try the new one. All right, we're having a look at Colin on his original saddle. And what I want you to have a look at is how much rocking and rolling we're getting through the hips and whether it's symmetric. Colin, I'm going to get you to lift your pace like you're at time trial pace now and pedal hard. And let's see what effect that has on the movement of the pelvis on the saddle. And you probably see there's a real difference side to side there, and that rocking motion gets worse. Okay, so we've had Col on the bike, we've had a look at where he's at. We've swapped out his old saddle with the new one, and we've gone for the Seymour as our first choice. Now Jacob's going to show us how we mould it. Now that we've put it on and we've got him in the best position we can today, let's see what happens. How do we do that, Jacob?
Okay, very simple. We have a AC unit here, which essentially just plugs in under the saddle to our contact point, and then over a period of time, which is decided by rider weight and ambient temperature, will make the heating process
to mould the carbon shell to the shape of the perineum of the rider. So it's truly custom without actually having to do plaster casts and all sorts of other difficult things.
Yeah.
So it's the first of its kind really in the world.
Yes. Yeah.
So why don't we plug it in and we'll start the heating process, and we'll kick off a timer on the smartphone, and then we'll get Col on and we'll show you how we mould it. Okay, so now that we've got our electronics attached, it's simply turn it on, set the timer, and wait till it heats up. In this case, about 5 minutes.
Yes.
And basically, it's as easy as that. Okay, while we're heating up our saddle, there's a couple of little differences here. This is a nice ergonomic saddle, but uses the shape to unload the pelvis or the perineum, but it's got no real give in the shell. One of the things the Reform saddle does is it actually has a bit of spring in the shell to absorb shock, which you would imagine is quite a useful thing when you're hitting potholes or on rough country roads. The other thing is that underneath will start to get quite warm, so you usually don't touch that too much as the heating gets going. The other thing I wanted to ask Jacob about while he's here is about the style of padding. We do have a central groove which will help unload, but it feels fairly dense, which is like a lot of modern saddles. Why would that be important in this saddle?
Mm-hmm. With the moulding process and the amount of heat that's generated, and also the need for that shape to maintain after you've moulded, it's quite a dense foam. So like a lot of these high performance saddles, it's quite hard, but with that moulding process, it spreads out those pressure points a little bit on the sit bones. And then also with that flex in the saddle that Dave showed you, it's not super jarring like, these more rigid styles.
And the aim of the game is reducing those pressure points even just a little, because if you are pedalling for 4 hours, which is a pretty typical thing for a road cyclist to do, that could be 20,000+ pedal revolutions. Those little pressure points add up. If we can make them less pressure over that time, it's going to go a whole lot better. And the other thing with the higher density and the heat is we want that product to last. We don't want it to delaminate or degrade with a single moulding. The other advantage is I believe you can remould it multiple times.
Yes, different bike,
new setup, new handlebar, whatever it might be.
New bike fit, you can
all of these different things.
Yeah.
And then that would also raise the question, how does the shell tolerate a hot climate like Queensland? If we're in here in the middle of summer and you're having a long ride and you're having lunch and you stop for half an hour and the saddle is in the sun, would that change the moulding when you get back on?
Yes, so peak day, summer, it's
35, 40 degrees.
Yeah, I think it's safe to assume there could potentially be some remoulding. If you're, with the sun on top, there will be a lot of heat in the foam. Most of the moulding comes from the carbon inlay. And so, there'll be a bit of insulation from that, but, if you're doing that consistently, it's worth remoulding the saddle. And we've got one of our team riders in Canada. He rides 30,000 Ks a year, and he moulds once a year, but different climates. He's mostly riding gravel.
And I guess to put it in perspective, if you've got 37 degrees body weight on top, 35 degrees is less than the temperature your buttocks putting on the saddle. So I think it's probably unlikely to be a huge problem. And if you're jumping straight back on and pedaling, like we're going to show you with Colin in a minute to mould, you're probably just maintaining the moulding shape or adjusting it slightly. So probably in terms of longevity in summer climates, it's probably just fine.
Yeah. I could see in a car, like if you live in your car, where that heat's more ambient and less like direct sunlight, I could see that being a bit more of a factor, but so
it might
far
be over 50 degrees then if it's in the back of a ute in summer or something.
Tyres might be popping off at that stage.
Yes, it might not be the only problem.
Yeah.
Okay. All right, Jacob, we might get you to show exactly where on the saddle our electronics plug in.
Just up near the nose here, you'll see the contact point. That contact point's magnetic, so it'll hold our clip in place. And then we tend to come in through the back of the rider just to keep the cables away from the wheels and the pedals and chain.
All the moving parts, basically.
Yeah.
So to do our moulding, Cole's simply going to ride for 30 seconds on his drops, 30 seconds on the hood, alternating for a total of 6 minutes. Okay, we're trying to get a shot here of the moulding process. It may not show out well because it's black carbon on black nicks, but you can certainly see here that the trampoline effect, if you like, of the carbon is well in play and it's starting to shape to Cole's anatomy. All right, Cole, how was that moulding process? Did you notice any heat during it?
Oh, David, yes, you can certainly feel the heat, and I would have an impression that the load is distributed more evenly over the seat than what it was on the previous one.
So there's less hot spots and a more even distribution.
Exactly.
Exactly what we're after.
And of course we'll see what happens after 2.5 hours.
Yes, that's the real test. So first thing with trying any new saddle is it must feel good while you're trialling it.
Yeah.
But 5 minutes of comfort doesn't mean much. You need to try that for a number of weeks, preferably a month.
Yep.
Your normal training and racing load, and then make a decision. If you're still loving it, it's definitely going great. So we'll finish up here in a second, and we might get you off the bike, Colin. We'll take a look at that saddle.
Okay.
Okay, this is straight after moulding, and I might get Jacob to use his hand there and show you the saddle has significantly moulded what I call the lateral groove. This ability to sort of unload the perineum this way is actually moulded in, obviously. And if we come around the back, some of our asymmetry has been accommodated for, and you can probably see there that this right side is actually a little bit lower than the left.
What I found interesting in the moulding process is that there's now a difference between the left and the right side of the saddle.
In what way?
Well, you indicated there that one side is a little higher than the other, and that would probably be something that's going to alleviate the issue from the injury that was sustained on the left leg, I would imagine.
And particularly when you're dealing with a fractured pelvis, that the way that heals, it's very, very hard to tell. Is it gone back the way it was, or is it symmetrical to the opposite side that didn't get a fracture? And so this is a saddle that would potentially allow us to accommodate that, because that's the injury that we can't see the asymmetry. We don't go putting hands over people's pelvic floor to find that. We actually have to do it through trial and error. But if you've got a perfectly symmetrical saddle, but through injury your pelvic bones are no longer perfectly symmetrical, that's a great point, Cole, because that chances are that we need to actually mould the saddle to you. And as far as I'm aware, this is the first commercially available product in the world. So it's really wonderful to have Jacob here from Reform today in Australia. He's our Australian distributor, and to try and see if we can make it work in these sort of challenging bike fit situations that we see day to day. All right, so that's how easy it is to mould a reformed saddle. Anyone can do it. You just need an electricity supply, preferably a trainer, and a few spare minutes. Best done after your bike fit when you're already in a great position. Jacob, any other tips for how we could get the best mould? We know we can do it more than once. If we're not happy with the first iteration, we could do another one. Any other things we can do to optimise the result?
Yeah, we find that doing the moulding without the bibs on tends to create a more accurate impression for like where your sit bones are. But we just saw with Cole that with bibs on, that impression's still, you know, you're still making that mold and
Still made a
getting that
noticeable
comfort.
change and a noticeable change on pressure points for you
Yes.
on the saddle.
Yes,
Yeah.
yes.
All right, so that's how easy it is. What we'll do is we'll follow this up with Cole. He's going to go and do his normal training and racing. We'll see how that goes over the next 4 weeks. And if that solved a problem, this is not, the, as we said earlier, the easiest problem to solve with a saddle. But I'll tell you what, if that solves the issues Cole's having, that is a revolution in saddles. I'd be very interested to see how that goes.
David, Jacob, I'd like to thank you both for allowing me to be your guinea pig for the day, and fingers crossed it's all going to be a rosy future from here on in.
We sure hope so. Thanks for being our guinea pig. We much appreciate it, and it will be a great success story if it comes off.
Yeah,
Okay.
Pleasure.
thank you.
Thanks, guys.
Thank you, David. Cheers.